Although largely unknown to tourists outside of Eastern Europe, it will be an adventure hotspot when Georgia finally gets the international attention it deserves. From bomb shelters turned wine storages to cave villages, pagan worship sites, and the world's second largest botanical garden, there's a landscape and a slew of activities that go with it to suit just about every taste. Also, don't forget to check out the exciting bonus fact we have for all the wine lovers out there towards the end of the video. With big cities, iconic small towns, picturesque mountains, and a spot on the Atlantic Ocean, Georgia has much more to offer than its beaches. To help you decide which Georgia spots are most worth your time, we took into account the variety and uniqueness of attractions, so let's get into it. Tbilisi, Europe, Asia, or the Middle East, Georgia's capital city, Tbilisi is a hybrid of different influences. You'd be forgiven for feeling a little disoriented, but the religion, the culture, the food, the vernacular architecture, and the very way of life here are all fundamentally Georgian. If you have no idea what that means, you'll have a wonderful time finding out. The tumble-down courtyards and elegant balconies of the old town, Abana Tubani's Turkish-style domed baths, and right next door, Bedlemi Street, Tbilisi's Jewish quarter. Soviet-era taverns, underground bakeries, converted factories, and world-class restaurants, provocative street art, and a fashion and electronic music scene that is coming into its own. From Bangkok-style food markets to Parisian-style boulevards, Georgia's biggest city offers up an enticing blend of East and West. Spend at least a few days getting to know Tbilisi, an up-and-coming capital to keep an eye on. Kazbegi. Just 3 hours north of Tbilisi via the spectacular Georgian military highway, Kazbegi has long been a popular high-altitude retreat. If you're on a right timeline, it's the perfect place to get a taste of Georgia's dramatic mountain scenery without staying too far from the city. The small town of Kazbegi is encircled by the surreal, perennially snow-capped Greater Caucasus Mountains. Gergeti Trinity Church, perched over Kazbegi at 2,000 meters above sea level, is a must-see. Outside of winter, you can reach the church on a 2-hour climb through alpine meadows. Kakheti. Base yourself in historic Singnagi, a charming town protected by high stone walls and watchtowers. Organize a driver and trace your way between dozens of wineries and cellar doors, including favorites Kinsmo and Shumi. The impressive Kareba winery consists of a series of long tunnels cut into a mountainside. It was supposed to be a bomb shelter. Turns out that natural climate controls creates the perfect conditions for storing wine. Lagodekhi protected areas. Located at the tri-point of Georgia's Kakheti region, Azerbaijan, and Dagestan or Russia, the Lagodekhi protected areas covers 24,000 hectares of pristine forest and prime hiking territory. Georgia's oldest nature reserve includes beech forests and alpine zones and is home to East Caucasian tahr and brown bears. Vardzia. Georgia's position at the crossroads of Asia and Europe has meant living under the constant threat of invasion. In centuries past, Georgians looked to cloisters and hidden settlements for protection. None of them more impressive than Vardzia, a colossal self-sufficient cave village in the country's south. Set on the slopes of Erusheti mountain, Vardzia was constructed in the 12th century by locals seeking sanctuary from invading Mongols. In its heyday, Vardzia stretched for 500 meters and was 13 tiers high, boasting more than 6,000 individual grotto apartments, an irrigation system, a church, and a throne room for Queen Tamar, the monarch who decreed this incredible feat of engineering. Most of the complex was destroyed by an earthquake less than a century after it was finished, but much of the stone architecture can still be seen and appreciated today. Gori. If you're not one to shy away from dark tourism, pay a visit to the hometown of one of Georgia's most notorious exports, Joseph Stalin. The infamous leader of the Soviet Union was born and raised in Gori, less than 100 kilometers east of Tbilisi. Unlike just about everywhere else in Georgia, in Gori, the famous dictator is not entirely hated. One of the first things you see after arriving in Gori is a massive Stalin poster advertising the local grocery store. The eponymous main avenue still bears Stalin's name, as does the city park and many civic buildings. The zenith of Gori's Stalin subculture is the Joseph Stalin Museum, an institution wholly dedicated to preserving his memory through photographs, documents, and memorabilia. On the grounds of the museum is the wooden house where Stalin was born and the personal armored train carriage he used later in life. Tour guides do a suspiciously good job of glossing over the gory aspects of Stalin's reign in favor of portraying him as a benevolent leader. Chiatura. Another blast from Georgia's Soviet past, Chiatura was once a thriving industrial town where 60% of the world's manganese was mined. Now a shadow of its former self, Chiatura is a wonderfully off-beaten destination that you won't find listed in your lovely planet. Its main attraction is the network of ancient cable cars that crisscross the deep valley. Stalin's ropeway, as it's sometimes called, was constructed on the leader's orders in 1954 to improve productivity in the mines. 17 separate cable cars linked Chiatura's colorful apartment buildings and marketplace with mines set high above the town. Incredibly, a handful of the original cars are still running today. The rusted cables may inspire fear in the most seasoned of travelers, but if you can muster the courage, a jaunt on Stalin's ropeway is an unforgettable experience. Chiatura is best visited as a day trip from Kutaisi. If traveling by public minibus, ask the driver to stop at Kakheti Pillar on the way so you can take a look at this most unusual monastery. Martvili Canyon. The lush, forested landscapes of Georgia's western Imereti, Adjara and Svaneti regions are a sharp contrast to the country's east. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the waterfalls, caves, and canyons around Kutaisi. Okatse Canyon is famous for its rope walk that rises 140 meters above the valley floor. The nearby Martvili Canyon is lesser known, but every bit as impressive. Mossy and overgrown, this exquisite landscape of countless shades of green was once revered as a site of pagan worship, and later used as private baths for the noble Dadiani family. Batumi. Batumi, Georgia's Black Sea resort town and the capital of the autonomous Adjara region, is commonly thought of as a mecca for gamblers and sun worshippers. Much more flashy than other parts of the country, it's not for everyone, but Batumi has its peculiar charm. The architecture is imaginative and downright wacky, from Alphabet Tower, an homage to the Georgian mother tongue, to a world-famous McDonald's and the Disneyland-esque Europe Square with its Belle Epoque facades. Batumi is home to the stunning Ortajem Mosque, a great international restaurant scene, 2 lively local markets, and the world's second-largest botanical garden. Svaneti. The ancestral home of the Svans, an ethnic group who have dwelled in Georgia's mountains since time immemorial. Svaneti is where you'll encounter some of the country's most breathtaking scenery and unique cultural experiences. Set in sheltered valleys, Svaneti's remote hamlets are characterized by their stone towers. These aren't fortresses but in fact family homes, a few of which are still occupied today. Mestia, Svaneti's main center, has a great tourist infrastructure and a delightful ethnography museum. Thank you for staying so far. Here's the much-awaited bonus fact. In case you didn't know, wine is kind of a big deal in Georgia, one of the first countries in the world to pioneer viniculture. Georgian wine is made by fermenting whole grape stems, skins, and all in an underground clay vessel called a kavevri. The technique has even been listed on the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list. After a few days in Kakheti, Georgian wine country, you'll be very familiar indeed with this unusual technique and the distinctive vino it yields. They have been making and perfecting this wonderful beverage for at least 8,000 years. What are your thoughts on the Stalin subculture? Comment down below and let us know your thoughts. If you enjoyed the content, uplift the channel by hitting like, subscribe, and also ring the YouTube bell to meet us again in the following video. Until next time!